नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So text 12. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
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 भिन्नस्य लिंगस्य गुण प्रभावो.
भिन्नस्य लिंगस्य गुण प्रभावो.
द्रव्य क्रिया कारक चेतनात्मन.
द्रव्य क्रिया कारक चेतनात्मना.
दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो.
दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो.
न विक्रियन्ते मयि बद्ध सौहृदा.
न विक्रियन्ते मयि बद्धे सौहृदा.
Yes.
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Translation. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, "My dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of three modes of material nature: the five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress." Purport. The question may be arise that if the living entity has to act as the superintendent of the activities of this bodily combination, then how can he be indifferent to the activities of body? The answer is given here. These activities are completely different from the activities of the spirit soul of the living entity. A crude example can be given in this connection. A businessman riding a motor car sits in the car, supervises its running and advises the driver. He knows how much gasoline is used up and he knows everything about the car, but still he is apart from car and is more concerned with his business. Even while riding in the car, he thinks of his business and his office. He has no connection with the car, although he is sitting there. As a businessman is always absorbed in thoughts of his business, so the living entity can be absorbed in thoughts of rendering loving service to the Lord. Then it will be possible to remain separate from activities of material body. This position of neutrality can be possible only for a devotee. The word bada Sauhad, bound in friendship, is particularly used here. Karmis, Gyanis, and Yogis cannot be bound in devotional service. Karmis fully engaged in the activities of the body. Their aim of life is to give comfort to the body only. Gyanis try to get out of entanglement by philosophical speculation, but they have no standing in the liberated position. Because they do not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down from exalted position of Brahman realization. Yogis also have a bodily concept of life. They think that they can achieve something spiritual by exercising the body through the dhyana, asana, pranayama, etc. A devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, you see, we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyatante kalevaram tam tam eva iti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. That it's that whatever state of being one remembers, to that he attains in the next birth. It is the mind which carries the living entity from one body to another. So, if a devotee, I mean, if anyone, say for example, someone wants to be promoted to the heavenly planets, or if someone wants to, go to Brahma Lok, or wants to go into Brahman, there are different ways and means. Essentially, you see, here it is mentioned. The five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul, all these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress. So what we are talking about is here essentially is the fact that the living entity is always carried by his consciousness. The consciousness of the living entity carries him from one place to another. For example, mind which is agitated by the spirit soul. So if the living entity identifies with the mind, all this misconception, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, all these are mental conceptions. This is my society, this is my nature. So this mental conceptions. So this mind is agitated by the spirit soul to think in a particular way. So if the living entity is able to separate himself from this conception, he will be able to move further. So for example, if someone thinks that he wants to be in heavenly planet and he develops a demigod-like consciousness, he will become free. He will eventually attain the body of a demigod. He will attain a demigod-like consciousness and he will attain to the planet of the demigods. If someone develops a demonic consciousness, he will attain to the planet of the demons. Just like a lawyer, he studies law so that he can join the bar council. Or a medical student studies medical sciences so that he can join a medical council. So in this way, it is the function of the mind only. So likewise, if someone wants to go back to Krishna, he has to develop a mind like that of Krishna. So Krishna is saying, Man manabhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratvijane priyosi me. Man manabhav mad bhakto. So Srila Prabhupada translates this very nicely. Now, man manah literally means, think of me. But Srila Prabhupada translates that as always think of me. We have already seen yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever state of being one has at the time of death, to that he will attain in the next birth. So before that, Krishna says something very interesting. Anta kale cha mam eva smaran mukta kalevram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra sanchaya. And whoever at the time of death quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So very interesting point. Srila Prabhupada translates remembering me alone. Antakale cha mama eva. Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevram. Only thinking of Krishna, no other thoughts. No family, no nation, no society. Only thinking of Krishna. And to do this, one has to think of Krishna all the time. Man manabhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So when you think this at all times, you will be able to remember Krishna at the end of your life. So, like a lawyer always thinks about law and related subjects, or a businessman thinks about his business. So likewise, a devotee always thinks about Krishna. So karmi, jnani, yogi, they cannot become devotees. Karmis have material desires to fulfill. Jnanis are speculating on the absolute truth. And yogis are trying to seek the impersonal. So in this way, somehow or the other, they're trying to search out Paramatma without devotion. So there is this distinction. The devotee is also searching for Paramatma, but he's searching in devotion, in bhakti. But a yogi is searching for Paramatma without devotion. So they cannot attain the supreme objective because they cannot think of Krishna at the time of leaving this body. So they cannot attain the transcendental abode of the Supreme Lord. So if one wants to attain the Supreme, one has to constantly think of Krishna in devotion and become free from the bodily misconception. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
The same means, so we need to train the mind and clean the consciousness.
Pardon, Brooke?
Mind, we need to train the mind to think like that, means, and consciousness we need to clean.
Yes. Mind is the seed of all desires. So we have to purify our desires. It is the mind which tells us that, this food is good, that food is bad, or this person is good, that person is bad. So mind is where, we are conceiving all our thoughts. So we need to purify that.
Prabhupada's example is beautiful, Prabhuji, that one of the businessman. We can relate to we can say even though we may be doing activities of this world, but from our heart, mind, our entire consciousness should be focused on how we can do and improve our devotional service. So
Yes, it is like this.
we focus, although we may be doing many other bodily activities.
Yes, it's like this, Prabhu. Like the businessman is traveling in a car, but he's thinking of business. So, like a mother is sitting at home and she's doing her job, but she's thinking about her children. So, in this way, a devotee may be living in this world, but only thinking of Krishna. Man mana bhav mad bhakto, mad yaji mam namastu. Always thinking of Krishna. So, a devotee molds his life in such a manner that every activity is only directed towards realizing Krishna. His desire, as we say, his sankalp, his determination is Krishna. So like a student, he may go out and play football or he may watch a movie, but his determination is always to clear the examination. So he's always thinking at the back of his mind, thought is always of the examination. So likewise, a devotee may perform many things in this world, but he's only thinking of Krishna. So like when we talk about our ISKCON itself, why do we encourage boys to become brahmacharis or married couples to become vanaprasthas? So that one can only think of Krishna exclusively. Reduce the other distractions.
That is why we need to associate and think about it more and more.
Yes, so sadhu sangha means always reminding each other of Krishna in all stages. This material world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Everything here is temporary and full of miseries. Anything, so-called love, family, society, education, everything will become a source of unhappiness. A very loving husband and wife, but husband dies or wife dies, it's a source of pain and suffering. But on the other hand, if one develops love for Krishna, then one will never become unhappy. Life after life. Birth after birth, Krishna will give shelter to such a soul. Until such time that he becomes completely pure and attains the planet of Krishna himself. Yes. So, shall we continue? Samah samanottama madhyamadhama sukhe cha dukhe cha jitendriyasha mayo klaptakhila loka samyuto vidhatsva virakhila loka rakshanam.
May I read, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Thank you, President Pranam.
Dandavat.
Translation. Translation. My dear king, please keep yourself always exposed and treat people equally, whether they are greater than you, in the intermediate stage, or lower than you. Do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transitional position, try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by arrangement. For you, your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom. Purport. Here is an example of receiving direct instruction from Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. One has to execute the order of Lord Vishnu, whether receiving it directly from him or from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. Arjun fought the battle of Kurukshetra under direct orders of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Similarly, here Prithu Maharaj is also being given orders by Lord Vishnu regarding the execution of the duty. We have to stick to the principles stated in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, where mukte buddhi. Every month's duty is to receive order from Lord Krishna or from his bona fide representative and take the orders as his life and soul without personal consideration. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that one should not care very much whether he is going to be liberated or not, but he should simply execute the direct orders received from the spiritual masters. If one sticks to the principles of abiding by the orders of spiritual master, he will always remain in a liberated position. A common man must execute the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma by working in his prescribed duties according to the caste system, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the spiritual orders system, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. If one simply execute regularly and strictly the injunctions given for the different divisions of life, then one satisfies the Lord Vishnu. Hare Krishna.
I have slightly bigger purport here.
There is one more paragraph.
No matter, Prabhu.
Yeah, the computer is giving problem. Yeah. As a king, Prithu Maharaj was ordered by Lord Vishnu to keep himself away, always aloof from the activities of the bodily situations and engage always in the service of the Lord, and thus keep himself in the liberated stage. The word Baddh Sureha, verse Sureha, in the previous verse is explained here with one can fully remain in the intimate connection with the Supreme Lord directly or receive orders from his bona fide representative, the spiritual masters, and execute the orders sincerely when one keeps aloof from the activities of the body. The Lord helps us by giving us direction how to act in devotional service and thus advance on the path back home, back to Godhead. His instructs us outwardly in the form of the spiritual master. Therefore, one should not accept the spiritual master as an ordinary human being. The Lord says, Achyam mam vijnanam nav manyate karchite. One should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being because You go ahead with it. Just a minute. He is substitute for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita 11:27. One should treat the spiritual master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and never be envious of him or consider him to be an ordinary human being. If we follow the instruction of the spiritual master and execute devotional service to the Lord, we will remain always free from the contamination of the bodily and material activities, and our life will be successful. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So now we had discussed previously also that the instructions of Bhagavatam are going to become more and more practical and at the same time more and more grave. You see, Srimad Bhagavatam is a very serious subject matter. It is not a matter of academic understanding, memorizing the verses. It's not a matter of, hobby reading, that sometimes I study Bhagavatam, sometimes I don't. Srimad Bhagavatam is a very specific set of instructions meant for those who take their lives very seriously. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those who have decided to end the materialistic cycle of birth and death, who no longer want to participate in this material world which is temporary and full of miseries. So, the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam are only meant for those who are non-envious of the Supreme Lord. Those who have even a hint of envy in their Supreme Lord will have no interest in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why we see, so many, very handful of people. Krishna also says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. So even in a society of devotees, we'll see that hardly a few devotees will be actually interested in knowing about Krishna. The others would be simply seeking some material benefits. So to know Krishna is very, very difficult. And here we see now the Supreme Lord is giving a very specific instruction. In the previous verses, in the last 11, 12 verses we have seen, the Lord has explained to Prithu Maharaj about the specific position of his body, this material nature, and how the living entity interacts with it, and why and how he should conduct himself. But now here, the Supreme Lord is giving a direct instruction to Prithu Maharaj. Now this is no longer concerning the horse sacrifice, no longer concerning Indra's conduct or the kind of mentality he should have, but this is a direct specific instruction that the Supreme Lord is giving. The Supreme Lord is seated in everyone's heart and he knows exactly what is the desire of every living entity. So Prithu Maharaj has appeared by the direct will of the Supreme Lord to establish his processes in this world, to establish religion as per his instructions. So this instruction, now he's instructing Prithu Maharaj finally, like it's a final instruction that he's giving. So final set of instructions. So do not be disturbed. So he says, my dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they are greater than you in the intermediate stage or lower than you. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shopakecha Pandita Samadarshina. Understanding everyone's position as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as the living entity, part and parcel of the Lord, bound by the three modes of nature, one should be equipoised and treat people equally. One should treat everyone equanimously. So do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. For your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom. So do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. This is something that Krishna has already addressed in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. So he says, that do not be disturbed by this so-called happiness and distress of this material world. It is just a temporary phase, just like the change of weather. Like here he says, Yam hi vyasatam ete purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram so mritatvaya kalpate. So in the second chapter, 15th verse, Krishna is saying, O best among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So this is what Krishna has explained. Now here, this instruction goes one level further. So try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. Actually, it is Krishna who's arranging everyone's, the movement of the living entities. In the 18th chapter, we have seen Krishna has mentioned that the living entities wander from one place to another by the instructions of the Paramatma within the heart. So whether it's a king or a beggar or a demon or a devotee, everyone's movement within this material world is controlled by the Supreme Lord. So here Krishna is explaining that very specifically. And he's saying that you should execute your duty without the consideration of happiness or distress. So Srila Prabhupada explains this very nicely here. So actually, in the 38th verse of the second chapter, Krishna is again explaining Sukha dukkhe samkritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujjasya naivam papam avapsyasi. Very important instruction, which is actually what Krishna is saying here also. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by doing so, you shall never incur sin. Sin is what binds us into this material world. And when we are not incurring any sin, it automatically implies that we shall attain liberation. But here Srila Prabhupada explains that one should execute the mission of the Lord without even the consideration of liberation. See, as we say, Sakshadharitvena samasta shastra ruktastatha bhavyat eva sadhi. So the the spiritual master is a representative of the Supreme Lord within this material world. We have seen in the introduction to Chaitanya Charitamrita that the spiritual master is the supreme personality of servitor Godhead. He is the Supreme Lord who is in a specific position to give instructions to his disciples. So one should abide with the instructions of the spiritual master without any consideration, even that of liberation. So Varnashram Dharma is prescribed order under the instructions of qualified spiritual master. Simply by executing those instructions, one can attain freedom from material duties. But when one surrenders to the spiritual master and executes his mission, one is already transcendently liberated. So one may apparently look like an ordinary man, but one who is executing the mission of the spiritual master, he is already a liberated soul. Because the spiritual master is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he will take him to his desirable destination. So, simply by executing those instructions, one is constantly in touch with Krishna. Acharyam mam vijaniyam navamanyeta karhichit. One should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, for he is the substitute for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is a substitute. He is the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. He is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master will not perform Ras Leela or lift the Govardhan, but his instructions will be the same instructions as will be given by Krishna himself. So he should be understood in such a manner. So one should not be envious of him or consider him to be ordinary. So we see sometimes it is fashionable to say, Prabhupada said this, but in today's circumstances, this is not applicable. Or Srila Prabhupada's times were different. Those are the 1960s, and now this is 2020. So, things have changed. No, nothing has changed. The spiritual master remains the same in all circumstances. He is transcendental, especially when he's given the instruction that his instructions are valid for the next 10,000 years. So there is no question. We have to use our intelligence in the application of these instructions in our lives. And in that way, we'll attain perfection of our lifetime. Anyone who thinks that Srila Prabhupada is obsolete or his instructions are not suitable is a fool number one. And such a rascal will never attain Krishna. So one has to obey the instructions of the spiritual master. He is the representative of the Supreme Lord on earth. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments on this verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, here when Vishnu is saying that be always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they are greater, intermediate, or lower than you.
Hmm.
So, is this referring to the material level?
Yes, greater and superior one will only be at the material level. On a spiritual platform, everyone is rendering their own specific devotional service. So at a material level, so you see, my dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised. Now, heroic king is in the material world. In the spiritual world, the only king is Krishna. Ekala Purusha Krishna, Arsabha Bhratya. So everyone is a servant of Krishna. So there's no question of king on a spiritual platform. So here, Lord Vishnu is telling Prithu Maharaj that, my dear king, you are a king right now. Okay, you have taken the position of a king, but be equipoised. Do not think. So actually the meaning is also that, do not think you are the king. You are taking the position of a king to execute my mission. So do not think that you have now become the king. So you see, this is what he was going to do. Considering himself to be the king of the earth, he was going to kill Indra. So he thought Indra is the enemy and he's disturbing my yajna. So he wanted to kill him under the instructions of Atri. So he's saying remain equipoised, whether they are greater than you in intermediate stage or lower than you. So equipoised, do not discriminate. So do not look down upon those who are below you. Do not become over familiar those who are equivalent to you, and do not, do not become, do not genuflect to those who are above you. Remain equipoised. Treat everyone according to their specific position, considering everyone to be a part and parcel of Krishna.
So then what is the difference then between being equipoised? Like equipoised, we understand that treating them as per their position. And then treating people equally.
See, treating people equally. So let's take a slightly extreme example. So you say, for example, you see your mother or your father. You will meet them, you will greet them, and you will embrace them. Now you go to the forest and you see a king cobra. You are not going to greet him and embrace him.
Of course not.
You don't do that. I mean, even though you are a Vedic scholar and you understand that this is a Jivatma, he's a Jivatma. Now, one Jivatma has taken the form of your father, and due to some karmic connection, now he's your father. So you have affection for him and he feels affection for you. But due to some other past karmas, this Jiva has taken the body of a cobra. But it's a Jiva nonetheless. Outside of this bodily consideration, they are equivalent. But you will treat them in an equivalent manner. So you are not going to embrace your father and kill the cobra. You will just say, okay, that's also another Jiva that is in his position. So as a matter of respect, you will embrace your father, you will shower him with affectionate words. And at the same time, understanding the specific position of the living entity as a cobra, you will let him alone. You will not feel inimical towards him. In your heart of your hearts, with your intelligence, you know that this father of mine is also another living entity who's an individual soul, temporarily with me as a father. So you will understand in your heart, you will show the etiquette which is due to him. But as a Pandita, you will know that he is not my father really. He's another living entity who is put into this position. Likewise, you will see the cobra and you say, this is his specific position. Yes, Prabhu.
So this is the equipoised vision, no?
Yeah, this is the equipoised vision.
So then treating people equally means?
Treat people equally according to their position. So criminal must be punished. The king is not going to say, oh, you may be a criminal, but you are a Jivatma. I will treat you nicely. Come and have prasadam with me. And at the same time, if it's his father, he'll not say, oh, you are just another living entity. How do I care? Go and find Krishna will give you something. So treat everyone equally. Do not think that the criminal is your enemy. Do not think your father is your father. treat everyone as individual living souls, show them proper etiquette. Do not maintain, do not keep affection for someone and do not retain enmity for somebody else, depending on their bodily position.
Right. Because my question was basically that Rupa Goswami says, right, we have to discriminate between first class, second class, and third class devotees in our treatment.
Yes.
So this is not on the devotee level.
Yeah. So this is like even at a devotee level, Now, for example, we meet someone like, say, Keshavanand. Now we know that it's not just a question of knowledge, but it's a question of realization also.
Yes.
So even though he's friendly, we treat him with a lot of respect. Like he may be similar to our age or something, but we treat him differently. Yes, he's practically on the level of a Shiksha Guru. He is a Shiksha Guru. On the other hand, we see some neophyte devotee who has just joined, or a devotee who has just come to the movement. He has a wife and child and car, and he says, Prabhu, let's go out and have some fun, have some party. And then you tell him, Prabhu, this is not what we do as devotees. He says, oh, really? So you know that he's a Kanishta Adhikari, very young. He has like respect for our movement, but he doesn't really understand who we are. But we don't throw him away. You nonsense rascal. You don't understand principles of bhakti. No, we don't say that. Very politely, very respectfully, we guide him on the right path.
Right.
So that is also equal vision. Understanding. Okay, this is like an advanced devotee. We take his shelter. This is an extreme neophyte devotee. We give him shelter. I mean, every devotee is like has to give shelter to those who are below him. And if someone is on our platform, then we discuss. We maintain friendship with such a devotee. So different sorts of relationships, but we are treating everyone equally. We are not, like putting someone on a pedestal and kicking someone out.
Okay.
Seeing everyone as a part and parcel of Krishna.
It's like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treats with intimate devotees. He will discuss with the others. He will just do the Sankirtan.
Yes, absolutely. So if you see, let's look at this word very nicely. Samah samanottama madhyamadhama. So samah samana, equipoised and all equal. Uttama madhyam adhama. So now you see, Panditaha Samadarshina, and we are also saying Samanottama, Samanottama. So you see, this word actually, this is slightly classical English. So Srila Prabhupada has used the word equally, which also means equanimous. Now it's kind of like we are splitting the semantics here and we're using the word equanimous, but the word equal means the same. In classical usage, the word equal also meant equanimous. So, like, we don't take the literal meaning of equal here. So treat everyone equally. Like if there's a servant in your house, you give her the respect which is due to a servant. Meaning that you do not degrade her. Okay, she's my maid, who cares, get lost. No, you don't treat her like a dog or anything. You give her respect due to a servant. Because you're not going to, make her sit on the dining table and serve her 3 meals a day. No. You will treat her like a servant, but with respect. Respect which is due to a servant, due to another human being. You will give a different respect to your parents. And you will give a different respect to your younger and elder siblings. So this is equal treatment. Everyone is in their respective positions and everyone is satisfied by your behavior. The servant sees you as a kind master. The parents see you as a, as a very subservient child. And your siblings see you as a very friendly sibling. So this is equanimous. This is equal treatment to all. Everyone respects you according to your position.
I got a bit confused between, I confused equipoise with equanimous.
Okay.
And that's why I got confused.
Oh, right. Yeah, that will be like Mayavad then.
Yeah.
Equipoise. Yeah, so dhira. Dhiras tatra na muhyati. A sober person is not bewildered. So equipoised is that. Like a ship. Like the ship goes left, right, up and down, but maintains the course. So equipoised, yes. It doesn't mean that one is not feeling. When Srila Prabhupada's father passed away or Guru Maharaj passed away, Srila Prabhupada was very unhappy. Srila Prabhupada writes in his diary, he was extremely unhappy when his father passed away. He was very sad. And at the same time, when ISKCON was registered and first devotees got initiated, Prabhupada was very happy. But that doesn't mean that any of these events disturbed him in his duty.
Yes.
Father's death did not mean that he stopped preaching. And ISKCON registration did not mean that he became ecstatic and neglected everyone. He continued with his duty.
Hmm.
When the New York devotees came to see him off, they had been living with him for around 3 months. So Prabhupada embraced all of them, then turned and just left. No sentimental scenes. Prabhupada was not sticking around and, oh, now what will happen? No, he just left for San Francisco. Equipoised in happiness and distress, in heat or cold. Bhagavatam means very deep introspection, and not just wild introspection, but introspection based on what we have studied in the Bhagavad Gita. Guided introspection.
Keshan Bro mentioned this, like I've been hearing his Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 lectures. And he's given many lectures on this 926, or is it Apiche Sudurachara? 929. Yeah. So in those lectures, he just repeated one thing, that in a stable situation or where there is no push to you or where everything is favorable, you cannot get trained.
Correct.
And like before I started my work, sort of, I was thinking, oh, this is so easy. But now it's just coming to me that being equipoised is so difficult. Especially when everything around you is a mess.
See, well, think of this instruction. Krishna is saying, oh my dear Arjun, be equipoised. And what is the condition? What is the question that Arjun has asked? How can I kill my grandfather? Bhishma Dev was practically like father to Arjun.
Yeah.
And now Krishna is telling Arjun to kill him. Imagine someone has to kill his own father. And Krishna is telling, Arjun, be equipoised. I know you are going to feel sorry. You are going to feel unhappiness. You are feeling sad. But, be equipoised. Do your duty.
Yeah.
See, sometimes we take Arjun very cheaply. Arjun was crying. Arjun was crying. But we don't understand why Arjun was crying. We don't understand the greatness of Arjun. We don't understand his intelligence, how well he understood the instructions of Krishna so that he could kill Bhishma Deva.
Indeed.
Because he himself killed Bhishma Deva with his own hands. So we can see. So you see, when we meditate like this upon Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, then we fully appreciate the significance of spiritual life. So if Arjun could be delivered from that lamentation, can't we be delivered from a similar lamentation? The question that was being posed here was Arjun is lamenting, and that lamentation is stopping him from doing his duty, from his deliverance from material nature. So our so-called duties, our duty as a son, as a husband, as mother, as father, they are stopping us from rendering our duty. So many times we hear, oh, Prabhuji, my child is going to school, I cannot come for Bhagavatam. My wife is going for a party, so I cannot hear Bhagavatam. And here Arjun is going to kill his grandfather. Arjun is not saying, oh Krishna, this is my grandfather. Maybe I'll spare him and kill the others. Duryodhana is dead. Why should I care? No. Duty has to be done. When the Kargil war took place, the soldiers were just told to climb the hill. They saw their brothers' soldiers getting killed without knowing who was killing them. They were ordered, 13 Jack rifles, climb, charge. And they were just charging. They knew they were going to die. They went and they got killed also. That is the heart of a Vaishnava. Sama dukkha sukha. It doesn't matter dukkha or sukha. Render your duty. Material world by nature, its nature will make you very sad, very unhappy. It will break your heart. That's Maya Devi's hobby.
Yeah.
She will crush your heart into powder. Bhakti is for the brave hearts, Bhakti is not meant for light, very light-hearted people. Meant for tough souls.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Is any other questions or comments?
So, Prabhuji, in short, we can understand equipoise means render your prescribed duties as per scriptures in any condition.
Yes. And going ahead, render your duty in bhakti. Na kabhu badhive tomar vishaya taranga punarapi ei thani pabe mora sanga. So, Mahaprabhu gives two instructions. Grahe rahi Krishna naam nirantar laiba. Jare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Amara agya hai guru tarah ei desh. Na kabhu badhive tomar vishaya taranga punarapi ei thani pabe mora sanga. If in your material distress, you are still somehow able to pull yourself together and chant the holy names and preach the holy names, you should understand that Lord Chaitanya is always with you. Very, very, very difficult, Prabhu. Extremely difficult. Your father is unwell, your mother is unwell, someone is critical in your family, and you have to chant the holy names, and you have to preach. It's a heartbreaking position, but you have to do it. That's the duty. You have two choices. Either you can sit and cry, or you can just get up like a brave man and preach. It's not easy. Bhakti is not easy, Prabhu. Bhakti is not meant for cheap people. See, we have thousands of people in ISKCON, but there are just 14 people discussing Bhagavatam tonight. You see, brave hearts. Paramveer Chakra holders.
Scriptures are preparing us, these scriptures are preparing us for those moments or conditions.
Yes. So if an intelligent devotee should understand. So, by taking shelter of scriptures, especially Bhagavatam and Gita, we are able to tolerate things. Just Arjun could do it. If we hear from Krishna, we are able to tolerate these miseries. It is not that Arjun did not suffer. When Bhishma Dev died, Arjun was heartbroken. When he shot that Bhishma Dev, his heart was breaking there. But he did it as a duty. He took Brahnala, put him in the chariot, and started shooting. It was not easy for him, but he had to do it. That was his duty. At least we are not being asked to do something so drastic.
Yes. Our test will be when we'll meet such condition. Then only we can understand where we stand. We are advancing or we still at same level.
Yes. Test will come from all those who have come to shelter of Krishna will face tests. Maya will test. We have to stand here. We'll have our services selection board.
Yes.
It's tough,
Yes.
Prabhu. Bhakti is not a light-hearted business. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, they are very, they have come under very tough circumstances. Arjun is either going to die or he's going to kill his family. That is the circumstance of Bhagavad Gita. And here, Parikshit Maharaj is going to die in 7 days. So these instructions are emergency instructions.
Yes.
So my request to all the devotees is, study the Bhagavatam very seriously. Make this the objective of your life. Material world means misery. Material nature will throw you down to the depths of miseries. Only Krishna is our shelter. You know that bhajan, Bhabina dekhinu ei jagata majhare, tuma bina keho nahi e dase uddhare. Hari he dayal mora jaya radhana, bara bar ei bar le loho nija saath. So my dear Lord, so I have seen the whole world and I have come to this conclusion that except for you, my dear Radhanath, no one can deliver. Tuma bina keho nahi edase uddhare. Except for Krishna, no one can save us in this world. Bhagavatam is Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is Shabda Brahma. It is Krishna. So please take shelter of the Bhagavatam and try to get out of this world which is full of death and misery. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone. Any other questions or comments?
This word, Prabhuji, shelter has very deep meaning. Means practicing and shelter means totally different thing.
Yes. Shelter means to know that there is in this world nothing can save me. Srila Prabhupada also said that, not my education, not my family, not my qualification, not my beauty. Nothing is going to save me except Krishna. Nothing, literally nothing. I am nothing, Ashlisya vapadratam pinashtu mam adrishanan marm hata karotiva. Yatha tatha va vedadhatu lampato mat prananasastu sadeva napara. Whatever you do, I am completely surrendered to you. Kripiya tava pada pankajas dhuli sadrisham vichintaya. So Krishna is saying, please establish me as a particle of dust under your lotus feet. So that should be our humility. I mean, what humility literally? What is our pride?
Actually, that is the truth. It's not the humility, that's the truth. We should
Like
understand
beggars,
that.
Yeah, we should understand that. Actually,
Yeah.
even to use the word humility is so degrading, it's so egoistic that I'm humble.
Yes, this is egoistic with the word Prabhuji.
We are like bogus, we are zero, we are like dirt.
Nothing is in our control, but we are trying to say means humility. We are practicing humility. Nothing is in our control.
Nothing is in our control. We are insignificant, we are zero. So we should understand our real position.
Like Keshavanand Prabhu was saying, you means you come to the level where you don't think even that you have some power to do something. You cannot do anything.
Prabhu, prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Where is the exception in sarvasha? The gunas are doing everything. Everything literally, you are blinking your eyes, even that the material nature is doing. So where is the question of pride? We are zero, we are nothing, we are nonsense.
And still we fail in executing the orders that we should be listening to every single day.
Yes, because we think, oh, I'm an important man. I have important business. Bhagavatam can wait.
Sometimes I feel, what would Krishna want to be feeling when we fail? Like he gives us a situation and we fail. He will be like, I have worked so hard on you. Like you keep on failing. How would he be feeling? Like we are useless anyways, but what he feels.
Krishna loves unconditionally. Krishna says, okay, this is a useless child, but what to do? Child, nonetheless.
फिर हमसे डूबने वाली बात है, पर हम डूबते मरते नहीं, बस यही बात है.
मतलब आप ऐसा सोचिए ना, जैसे किसी बच्चे को डाउन सिंड्रोम है, आंख में लटकी हुई है, दिमाग चलता नहीं है, कुछ भी पकता रहता है मुंह खोल के, और माँ तो प्यार करती है, बेकार है, बंदर जैसा है, बट बच्चा तो मेरा ही है. So still, so Krishna also thinks useless child, but what to do? I will sustain him. My child. So please render bhakti in this mood. Respect Bhagavatam. Try to love Bhagavatam. Okay. So we stop here. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll meet again. So Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.